dreams really came true. When I was a teenager, my mom loved buying antiques for cheap at thrift stores. She was admittingly a little too obsessed, and sometimes I didn't like the things she considered to buy, or the things she brought home. I'm a Christian, and I also believe I may be just slightly in tune with the spirit realm, even though I desperately try to snuff it out because I don't like the things I've seen or heard in my childhood apartment. Sometimes the antiques gave off a really negative energy. I'd feel physically just creeped out, icky, nauseous, or tired, especially if we went to multiple thrift stores in a day. My mom bought these absolutely beautiful decorative crystal balls she put in a bowl as our table's centerpiece instead of wax fruits. She finds wax fruit tacky, but I never liked the way they made me feel. One night, after the purchase of these crystal decorations, I had the weirdest, most vivid dream that I was in New Orleans, about to go on a haunted house tour. I was at a cafe and talking to this black woman in a yellow dress and sun hat. She told me she was a psychic, and so was I. She told me it was a gift, but I had to be careful. She also warned me that once I went on the haunted house tour, that no one in my family should touch anything inside the house, or else we'll be haunted. So in the dream, I go to the haunted house with my mother, father, and brother, and it was a lovely house. But before I could really explore, I hear a crash and my brother say, "Oops!" I turn around, and my brother had broken a vase near the house's entrance. The door was open, and I see the black woman walk by, and she gives me this knowing, haunted glare, like I had just made the worst mistake of my life. Then I woke up, but something was off. It was the middle of the night, because I could hear my mom snoring. Pitch black, and there was something fuzzy on my nose. Somehow, even though last I checked it was bunched up and left hanging on some furniture before bed, my bathrobe had mysteriously been draped over the front of my person, completely flat and smooth, like a tarp over a dead body. I was scared to death and so confused. I complained to my parents, but they tried to talk me out of it being some sort of haunting. There were also some stereotypical events that happened soon after, like unexplained breathing, footsteps in the house instead of the ceiling. We live on the bottom floor. The next thing I remember is my mother and I talking. She was sitting in her lounging chair and suddenly she complained about a nasty smell. I told her I don't smell anything. And I kid you not, the minute I said that, I felt a movement and energy leave my mother and walk up to me and sit on me. And I immediately smelled rotten eggs. My mom says she felt it walk away from her. She also complained that sometimes she thought Dad had come home and would be talking to her out of the corner of her eye, but he wouldn't be home. Things came to a head a few nights later. For context, we were getting up at around 6 a.m. that morning, because my mom and brother need blood work done because they have an autoimmune diseases, and they weren't leaving me home alone. But basically, me and my mom had this little ritual where she'd try to wake me up, I'd mumble and complain and roll around in bed, she'd pull the sheet off, turn all the lights on, etc. It was kind of funny, and normally I was able to sneak in 5 more minutes of sleep. But this night, things were wrong. I was awoken from a dead sleep by a voice that sounded like my mother whispering, "Gee, it's time to get up." My mother never whispered. I never noticed that detail until afterwards, so I kinda mumbled and rolled over in my bed, never opening my eyes. And what happened next? Nothing. No lights turning on, no louder, "Come on, G, it's time to wake up." No pulling my blanket forcefully away. Just breathing like angry, huffy-puffy breathing, like my mother was truly ready to be mad at me, ready to strangle me. Then footsteps stomping out the room. I was very confused by this reaction. I thought about it for a while. I wondered if she was going to leave me alone at home. So I checked the time. It was 3 a.m. I spent the rest of the night sleeping in my parents' room, and my dad performed an exorcism the next night. I had to turn a light on writing this. I still feel so chilled and sick recounting the events even now, But even after the exorcism, my mother complained about strange happenings, talking to my father when he wasn't home, smells, etc. So she decided it must be the crystal balls, and she picked them up to try to throw them away, and one quite literally flew out of her hand and landed on the floor. She claims it felt like someone snatched it out of her hand, but she still threw them out, despite the paranormal protest. The activity stopped pretty much immediately after. I still live with her now because I'm in college and this economy made it impossible to find a job or move. But let's just say, whenever my mom wants to bring home used furniture, I talk her ear off in protest and remind her how she traumatized me with her crystal balls